but you felt it important to come to Zimbabwe. It shows the respect which you have for my country and your love for my country. So I want to thank you, all the press who are here, especially from the various countries. I see there's a sizable contingent from the UK. We are happy that you are here. We share bond relations with the UK. A tumultuous relationship in the past, but hopefully now a relationship which can lead to much more exciting bilateral cooperation between London and Harare once we are over this hill which we are passing through. I'm also happy that there is a contingent from South Africa, our neighbor. They are always live to the interests of Zimbabwe. We have a sizable diaspora from the former white population of Zimbabwe who went in pre-colonial times, who I want to salute. A lot of them were young people like me at the University of Rhodesia in the 1970s. When the country was divided and we, the war veterans, decided to go to Mozambique to go and fight against the injustice of Ian Smith, a lot of those young people also decided to leave the country. And the population of Rhodesia dipped from 300,000 to something like 150,000 within 3 to 4 years. That generation voted against the war with their feet and went abroad. They should have been recognized after independence for shortening the war which we fought. Had they remained to replenish Ian Smith's army, the war would have been longer and the deaths would have been more than the 60,000, the 300,000 refugees who were in Mozambique and Zambia and Botswana, and the 1-point-something million internal refugees. But their heroic and patriotic action in refusing to fight for Ian Smith shortened the war. They should have been recognized after independence. They were not. The reconciliation was between Mugabe and Margaret Thatcher, and that was a mistake. The reconciliation should have been between the protagonists of the war. But we also left a gap in the organizational capacity of the country because we, the war veterans who removed them from power, we had to have an organization which was formidable to overcome them. They were a standard NATO army, the Rhodesian army. So to defeat them, it means we were to upscale our capacity of organization. So the two protagonists who were central to the running of this country from an organizational point of view found themselves out of the landscape, political and social, of Zimbabwe. We veterans were marginalized by Mugabe, leading to the situation in which we are today. Mugabe made a reconciliation which did not include the protagonists, and we left a vacuum in organization, and it has allowed the wayward elements like the G40 and a made woman to try to seize power in Zimbabwe. So I'm talking of that diaspora, but we also have a new diaspora of the economic mismanagement, which is characteristic of the G40 in the last 15 to 20 years as they seized power. So those new diaspora who are out, who are proving to be hard currents in all the current countries where they are working on, they prove the mettle of Zimbabweans as a competent nation. So these are the two diasporas in South Africa. You are a big host of that diaspora. So we do, and we are happy that had you not provided the sanctuary, the pressure cooker within Zimbabwe would have been so hot, we probably would have been at each other's throats. So we are happy with the South Africans. Same token, we are also happy with the domestic journalists who are here, all of them from various organizations. We are happy, we are thrilled particularly by the conduct of the private press when the G40 took over the official press. Newsday has been good, daily news has been good to make people be enlightened, but as well as the other various electronic media. So we also want to salute you. You love your country, and we are happy about that. Then there are the other journalists from the various countries. Welcome to Zimbabwe. Welcome to the War Veterans of Association. We welcome you with open arms. We love you. We are happy with you. I want to come to the order of the day. We want to come to the order of the day. We hail the Zimbabwe Defense Forces. We hail General Chiwenga for once again taking part in a historic assignment which changes the history, which is a game changer for this country. It's not him and his team, it's not the first time they are doing it. In 1975 at Mugabe in Tanzania, they made an important military, political, and diplomatic decision to ditch a certain leader of the party called Ndabaning Sitole. And that enabled the resumption of the struggle again against Ian Smith. The decision they made as young officers at Mugabe, and they were less than 1,000, but that was the biggest military unit we had existing outside of the country, was done in tandem with Zipra guys, and they formed Zipa, a joint military command of the guerrilla armies. That is the joint military command which resumed the war, defeating Kissinger's deterrent exercise. It is the joint military command which resumed the war in Mozambique, and within 2 years, the Rhodesians were forced to negotiate at Geneva. General Chwenga, Comrade Perens Shiri, and others of the general from that Mugabe era have their signatures appended on that famous document. So we are dealing with guys who have a sense of historic mission, those generals. We salute them. And beyond that, they went on to become a national military training cadre for the thousands upon thousands of the Soweto generation, our generation. I left the University of Rhodesia at that time to go to war. I was studying law. We were thousands and thousands and thousands. The Mugabe guys not only resumed the war, but they went on to become the trainers of the formidable army of Zanla and Zipra, which defeated the Rhodesians within 4 years. So these are guys with a historic mission. And today, they made an important decision this week. They made an important decision to arrest the rot which was going on in our government through a very judicious military intervention, totally peaceful, to deal with a senile old man who had lost control of his midwife to a coterie of cohorts called the G40. Among them is Jonathan Moyo, a coded, classified CIA spy who was a deserter during the liberation war at Mugabe, and later on became a military officer for Ndabaning Sitole in Zimbabwe in the internal settlement period in the Zombe area, that area, and later on, of course, became a bona fide American spy. So this is the man who had went back into the core of the Zimbabwe government decision-making process, the most trusted advisor to our president, supposedly a revolutionary in the tradition of Che Guevara, in the tradition of Castro, in the tradition of Ho Chi Minh and others, Mao. That is the aura of President Mugabe. How a man who was supposed to have such a pedigree can find comfort in Jonathan Moyo and make him an advisor. At even my own expense, a cadre who worked with him during the war from 75. It's beyond comprehension. I hope we are not dealing with a Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I want to say there's another young man called Katsukwere, who is a tribalist, is a Zulu supremacist from somewhere there, who thought he could revive Mutapa's kingdom and become the king. And all of them, they were corseting themselves around this woman, this maid woman, and making decisions on behalf of the old man. And now he's spiritedly trying to maintain himself into power for a few more months, a few more days. When he allowed a coup within his own house, now he's refusing what is a correction by the generals. I mean, it's a paradox, isn't it? So this is the paradox which we want to address today. It will not be allowed. The generals have done a fantastic job for the Zimbabwe population. They consummated a fight which we, the war veterans, started. Is N7 here, the TV channel. We declared war against the G40 as far back as 2015, yeah, when I was still Minister of the War Veterans Affairs before him. And I said, we are going to win this war. We are masters of war of attrition. That's our life, a war of attrition. We always last longer because we are revolutionaries, we are guerrillas. And today we have proved that we last longer. These neophytes who were using a marriage certificate of a mad woman and a senior old man to try to take power. It's done. It's finished. It won't happen. It's finished. That is the message from the war veterans of Zimbabwe. I want to salute, beyond that, the population of Zimbabwe. You have remained very disciplined. People actually thought you were docile. You are not docile because you suffered so much. No African country suffered to the extent which you were. Every family lost somebody during the war. That was a bitter war. So you are very measured in your analysis of risk, especially political risk. But it doesn't mean you are docile. But once you go beyond a certain point with the Zimbabwe population, they will make you answer the bill, pay the bill. And between now and tomorrow, we are saying we are giving a warning, a very stark warning to Mugabe, to his wife, and to anybody who still wants to be associated with him, that the game is up, finished, done. We won't allow this to go any further. We are very happy with the reaction of our SADC friends, in particular South Africa. For your information, I'm coming from Cape Town. I then gone there to upend Mugabe, who was trying that he can hoodwink the South African government into taking a position which would have been supportive of their putschist tendency to use a marriage certificate to seize power. We are on the same page with our friends and the government of South Africa, believe you me. We are on the same page, and they've assured me, as the chairman of the war veterans, because they are also war veterans. By the way, I told you about Tanzania. During the war, there were camps of Frelimo from Mozambique. There were camps of ANC, PAC from South Africa. There were camps of MPLA from Angola. There were camps from Plan of SWAPO in Namibia. We shared the same trenches. And along the way, we acquired a political soul. And today, when we talk of SADC, it's something which is beyond what the EU is, what ASEAN is, what NAFTA is, or whatever other organization is. All these organizations I mentioned to you are regional neighbors coming together to cooperate. SADC has a political soul which comes from the anti-apartheid and anti-racist and anti-colonial struggle. I feel at home in Pretoria as I do in Rwanda, as I do in Lusaka, as I do in Tanzania, as I do in Maputo. So I want to assure the war veterans of Zimbabwe that you've got the full support from our war veterans in South Africa. And the government of South Africa and the party of South Africa, the ruling party, they are fully understanding of the predicament which we have been facing. So we are on the same page. That's all I want to say. And with it, the statement which they issued, which is concordant, acknowledging that this is not a coup, it's only a military correction. We love that statement because the generals in Zimbabwe were only discharging a duty for the Zimbabwean people. Now, I want to come to a very pithy point. The generals in the Zimbabwe army, they are professional. By their own very nature, they protect the constitution, they protect the borders of Zimbabwe, and they protect the government of Zimbabwe. So their judicious intervention is still along those lines. So we are saluting them for doing exactly what they should be doing, trying to get rid of a coterie of criminals which had accosted itself around a mad woman and a senior old man. So they've done a fantastic job to date. And more important, they've done it in such a way that there's not been any loss of life. It shows that level of professionalism, but an organizational acumen which dates back to what we did during the liberation struggle. We were not slouches to fight against Ian Smith. I told you it was a standard army. We were good. And this is exactly why this kind of intervention which they've done has been done the way it is. So we are very happy, and they've done their part up to now. We have no issues with diplomacy from the region getting involved. But let now me make a nuance. We are the war veterans. We are not the professional army of Zimbabwe. There are 35,000 of us, members. I kept the register. He was also keeping the register. 35,000 of us from that war. I am not including those who may still be in the army. who are also war veterans because they are professionals. I'm only talking of those outside. The 35,000 have got their wives. Like I brought my own wife here today. She's a war veteran too, but others don't have wives who are war veterans. Then they've got their own children who are enamored to this history of sacrifice of their fathers, their own children. If we average 4 per family, that's a sizable number. Beyond that, we have the war collaborators. We couldn't win that war without the runners who were giving information about the Rhodesians. There are probably 300,000 of them, according to estimates. They too have their wives, and they too, and their spouses. They too have their own children. Again, 4 average per family. We reach into every village as an association through that network. Because I told you, no family was spared from losing a member. So in terms of reach, there is no other organization in this country which has got that capacity which we have. We start from the cell, from the village. This is the body which I represent in general and in particular. This is the body. Our body is not for the protection of governments. We abide by the law, of course. Our history is tirana pindura zvinhu. Yes, we change situations. That's what we are. And we have pedigree to do that. We have pedigree within the party. I told you about 1975, House Tole was removed. Mugabe was not even in Tanzania when he was named as the possible leader of ZANU-PF, of ZANU, not at that time. He was not. It was a work done by the fighters in Tanzania. Don't listen to him brag about me being chosen by the party and this nonsense from the 60s nation. That's nonsense. All the other nationalist leaders from that era who didn't get the baptism from us never made it to power. All of them. The only one who made is him and Joshua Nkomo. All the others, they fell by the wayside. That is a reflection of our game-changing capacity, our gravitas, what I'm talking about. We make changes. We made Mugabe. When we started the war, he was not even at the front, even in the camps. He had been removed by Frelimo because we wanted a clean start of the fighters without interference from politicians. He only came to become the leader of ZANU during the Geneva conference tenuously, but finally at the Chimoyo conference in September 1977. That was 2 to 3 years into the war. He had nothing to do with the resumption of that war, Mugabe. Absolutely zero. And I'm talking because I first demonstrated at his house as a university student when Chitepo died. I went to his house in Highfields. He left a few weeks later. I followed a month later, 2 months later, after Mozambique's independence. I received him at the camp in Junda in Mozambique in 1975. He was emaciated. They were in hunger. His shoes were gone. He was trying to listen to the radio, a BBC signal, I don't know for what. He had batteries which had become this long, trying to listen to BBC News, focus on Africa. He could, and then the people didn't want to receive him at that camp. I used our gravitas as university students. There were 8 of us, to persuade the others to accommodate, because they had gone in under the banner of the UNC, not under the banner of Mugabe or anybody, and they didn't want him. We used, so he owes me a favor among many other favors. Why am I saying this? There's an impression which he makes that he did war veterans a favor. No, the favors go the other way, not him giving us favors. In 1977, he becomes the leader. Because we had lost Chitepo and JZpo and other leaders, we sent him to Maputo, and he was cloistered like a nun or a priest. What is those priests who go to retreat in the desert? He never had anything, a monk. He was cloistered like a monk in Maputo. He only came to the front one time. The nearest Mugabe was ever to the front of the war was 400 kilometers away, between Gaza and Maputo. Otherwise, He was 1,400 kilometers away when we talk of the Tete Front in the north. He had nothing except flowery speeches to give annually as the leader of the party and reading war communiques which we, the fighting forces, were doing at the front, coming through our illustrious General Tongogara. So this mantra of heroism, revolutionary heroism, it's nonsense. He doesn't deserve it. And we are saying it as war veterans who fought. And the way he has treated us since independence is a reflection of his disdain for those war veterans. Can you imagine? I was a member of the Politburo. I was a member of the cabinet. He had the temerity to say to him, you are now few. The G40 now represents the future. There are many. This motley organization, this motley collection of wayward individuals clustering around a mad woman, they have no organization beyond here. We are now being told that they are the majority in this country, and we, the war veterans, are not. We want to show him that who is the majority and who is organized. And this is the purpose of our press conference today. What am I getting to? I told you the army is there to protect the Constitution and the Republic and everything. We, the war veterans, are there to change things. We are giving an ultimatum. That's my statement. We are giving an ultimatum to Mugabe. This aura of this pretense that things are normal, going to Zou University and keeping people, hey, it's pretense. We won't accept it. It's finished. He has to make a decision along the diplomas which is being given by Sadat to promptly leave office. That's all we want. He must leave office still under the terms of the uniformed guys, because they are there to protect the governments. They are there to protect the Constitution. They are there to do. We, the war veterans, we are there to change things, and this is the time for change. We are on the same page with the Zimbabwe population, which has suffered 15 to 20 years of abject economic neglect, which has now moved into plunder of a kleptocratic nature, avarice, and avarice unlimited by Grace and her cohorts. So we are there to put an end to that. We want to create hope for the young generation. That's why we're here. That's why I spoke about the diaspora. We want to create hope for Zimbabwe. That's what revolutionaries do. You don't sacrifice the only life you have for any other currency except hope for a nation. Not for flags, not for leaders, not for political parties. You sacrifice your life for hope. That's what we did. So we are saying we are there to rekindle hope for Zimbabweans. That is what we are here for. And from a very, very practical angle, he makes a decision today to leave. It's upon him to make it, and his wife, under the terms which he should negotiate with the generals. Tomorrow is different. We have a rally which we had long in planning. It's coming tomorrow, starting at Zimbabwe grounds in Highfields. We are appealing to all the population of Zimbabwe to come to that rally. He used to go around the country with his insulting rallies, which he called interface. They called it, where the wife was carrying out diatribes. One rally after another was an occasion for diatribes and other insults to everybody, left, right, and center. And he thought he had people. Tomorrow he's going to see who has got people. So we are appealing to all Zimbabweans tomorrow to come to the Zimbabwe grounds. I hope by that time that the multitude which is coming tomorrow has gathered, he would have made his decision to accept the terms of quickly leaving the country. If he doesn't, then we'll settle the scores tomorrow. If he doesn't, then we will settle the scores tomorrow. There is no constituent in Zimbabwe more sovereign than the people of Zimbabwe. And this is the constituents which SADC will respect, because their decision on the ground is final. I want to make it very clear. So we are appealing first to the people who are coming to the rally tomorrow. We want Zimbabweans to be as disciplined as they've always been. Legendary discipline. No violence. no looting. We just want to show who we are and the direction will come from there. We want marshals who will make sure that this is orderly and it is organized tomorrow. So we are appealing to our youth who come there to make sure that it is order. The way our army has behaved in carrying out a judicious military intervention, that's exactly what we want tomorrow. You must take the example from the Zimbabwe National Army, the way they are doing their things. Discipline tomorrow. We are appealing to all the businessmen and to anybody who has got any means, wherever you are, sponsor a combi for people to come to the rally. The businessmen were part of our struggle. The businessmen have suffered horribly under the anti-business clique, which is the G40. They hate business. They started, remember when we had inflation on a mega scale, when a certain governor who is part of the G40 was in charge of the bank. They even destroyed all the rural stores under some silly intervention distribution systems. It's the same thing going on with the G40, anti-business, anti-local business. We want to make sure that when we create hope, even the businessmen shall do well in this country, especially the small business. So your future is tied to what is going on tomorrow as business people. Please sponsor a combi for people to come tomorrow to the Zimbabwe grounds. We are appealing to the diaspora, wherever you are, wherever from the village, wherever you come from, sponsor a combi from the diaspora. Put some diesel so that and sponsor a driver to drive them. We want them tomorrow because this is a national undertaking where everybody should come and show the support which they have for the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, because this is solidly in support of our army, but also for the revival of our country as a proud nation. We have lost face as a country. Proud Zimbabweans who carried out heroic things from history, the Monomtapas and everybody, the Zilikazis, all those people. Now we are looked at everybody in derision by the region, by the world. No, it won't happen again. We want to restore our pride, and tomorrow is the day. So the diaspora, wherever you are, sponsor a bus. If you can't sponsor a bus, send some money for somebody from the village. We want every village to take part in this grand show of people's power tomorrow. That's what we want. We are appealing to the churches. We have always been one and the same with the churches during the liberation struggle. There is blasphemy going on in the land. A woman dresses as a religious figure. She spouts hatred in front of supposedly religious figures. She organizes these Pentecostal churches, all for debauchery and thievery. And now they want to posit themselves as the new Christians of this country. The Christian church, as a collective, please be part of our big event tomorrow at the Harare, at the Zimbabwe grounds. So we are appealing to the church to come in their numbers tomorrow at Zimbabwe grounds. We are appealing to the traditional religion, those who have always supported us during the struggle, the custodians of our religious tradition. Tell people that tomorrow is a big event. They must come. We are appealing to students, to pupils, to everybody to come tomorrow. Mugabe was going around, I repeat, with his wife, stage managing rallies of people who were just given rights for nothing. Tomorrow people will come on their own without any sponsorship. They will come voluntarily, and we will show him who is the people. That is the signal which we want to give him, and he has got to digest it between now and tomorrow. And he makes an appropriate decision. It's up to him to make the appropriate decision. Thereafter, the die is cast. We will make sure that things are done the way we do Isusa Nabinduraji. But I want to assure the whole world that it will always be peaceful. It will always be peaceful. We have gone through violence in the past. We will not allow violence again. That's why I called for discipline. That, by and large, is the message. And finally, we want to thank the international community for their understanding. The Americans, they issued a statement. The British, they issued a statement. The EU have issued a statement. There is something which is coming from the IU, which is a little bit wrangling, which is intrusive. about this issue. But anyway, you, the people of Zimbabwe, you own your country, not the IU. Tomorrow you sure. There is supposedly a SADC troika ministers going on. We have no problems with SADC, but there is a certain Zimbabwean who is there, who should not be there. His name is Muzembe, positing as a foreign minister. Muzembe, others of your ilk are in jail now, here, under the army. That's Jonathan, that's Kasukwere, and Chombo. Quite a number of them. Muzembe, you belong to that group. Rather than try to talk on behalf of Zimbabwe and Botswana, come and talk to us about yourself. You need to safeguard your future yourself. So don't continue to post it as a foreign minister of Zimbabwe, because your Mugabe will know he has got, his shelf life is like fresh milk now. His shelf life is like fresh milk. If you expose it, it doesn't take long before it becomes sour milk. So Mzembe, please stop positing as a foreign minister of Zimbabwe. Come back home. That's what we want. We want to say, because he's the one who is trying to mislead, to negotiate on behalf of who he's not entitled to. And if we were SADC, because he is a G40, they should actually excuse him from the meetings. We call on SADC to excuse Mzembe from the meetings which are going on in Botswana. He does not deserve to be there, and he does not represent anybody except himself. I would want to go further. I've mentioned it before. This G14 cabinet and elsewhere was a bevy of various consorts of a certain kind of behavior among a leading woman in the country. We don't want to get into that. They should just please stop the nonsense. Stop it, like she used to say. So, comrades, that's by and large our message. An appeal tomorrow for the biggest, largest turnout by the Zimbabwean populace, so that we finish the job which the army has done. That is the main appeal. And an assurance to the international community that we'll do things the Zimbabwe way. Judicious, peaceful, non-violent, and always with a democratic intent and a democratic thrust. I want to remind the foreigners who are here about the war veterans of Zimbabwe and their democratic tradition. That's what we fought for.
No party. No party.
Yeah. Okay. All revolutionary movements until 1980, when we came to power, they used the gun to get power. And because they mobilized the people in their various countries and they had the military advantage, they took power by force. And most of them became Leninist states. They never called the elections afterwards. In Zimbabwe, we have the unique distinction of being the only liberation movement of Zipra and Zanla which accepted to go to elections, even when we were poised for military victory. And we came to power with the overwhelming support of the people of Zimbabwe through the vote. So the vote is central to our ethos as war veterans. Democracy is central. So we will always respect the democratic norms of Zimbabwe, because we fought for democracy as young people. That's what we fought for. So I want to assure you that the war veterans of Zimbabwe are four square behind the constitution of Zimbabwe. We just want to get rid of this coterie of thieves. And then we make our country go back. We want to have a free election where people will participate without fear or favor in whatever party they want. So when people come tomorrow to our meeting, don't bring your party regalia. We are now uniting a big chunk of the Zimbabwean population, if not the total. We identify ourselves as Zimbabweans tomorrow. We don't want to identify ourselves. We are not, as war veterans, a political party. We refuse. And I'm very glad that the courts upheld our position, and I'm very glad when I was being persecuted by ZANU-PF, my members of the war veterans told ZANU-PF to go to hell, and they made me chairman against the will of Mugabe and his G40 cohorts. So it showed that war veterans also can fight against ZANU-PF. So please don't try to taint us with a party if it is behaving in a certain manner. But if the party is carrying the history of the Zimbabwean people, which we discharged during the war, Because we are the one who carried ZANU-PF to the people, ZANU and ZIPRA. Then the party will have no problem with it. So we hope that the ZANU-PF party can put its house in order, but we are also appealing to all the other parties to exercise their democratic will without fear or favor. And we are very happy that the MDC passed their constitution together with us, which recognized the war veterans. And any gripes which we might have had with the MDC is the thing of the past. And incidentally, there were some of our best supporters in Parliament for the neglected welfare of the war veterans. So I'm giving this as an indication that we have no gripes with any political parties, and we are not a political party. Finally, we want to tell you about the future which we expect. I said we are here for prosperity. The only institution which has consistently given hope to Zimbabwe is the war veterans. We freed the country. The highest literacy rate in Zimbabwe today, which you all talk about, all of you will remember what happened. I know the debate is very topical in South Africa about free education and all this and all that, and the budget is always not enough to achieve that. When we said we wanted free education in 1980, the World Bank and IMF said there's not enough money. Do you know what we did as the war veterans? We told Mugabe, who was Prime Minister, to use the limited budget which he has to pay teachers. We then said we are going to be building schools with the way we organized the parents during the war. And all of you remember your parents, those who are old, building schools in rural areas. Can you imagine the GDP contribution of those parents? And there was a race between the government and the parents. The government supplying the teachers software, the parents supplying the hardware, the schools. There were more schools being built than the government could supply the teachers. We had to go to Havana, Fidel Castro, to train 4,000 teachers in order to fill the gap which was between what the parents were doing and the government of Zimbabwe. So this is the war veterans organizing the people to become what they are. We come to the land reform, the biggest creation of a middle class which this country has ever known. It was again the war veterans. We go further. When we were in cabinet, we worked for chrome to be available for mining and selling. The G40 had stopped that, saying that we want to force the Chinese at gunpoint and investors to put chrome mines on the to beneficiate on the Great Dyke. You don't force an investor on gunpoint. So it chased away everybody, and all young people working on the chrome mines became poor because there was nowhere to sell. We were shooting ourselves in the foot. I was ambassador to China. I saw skyscrapers going on, highways being built, ports being built, and all of them with steel. And there was not an ounce of Zimbabwe chrome in that big boom which created the second largest economy in the world. Now you understand why you are poor. If you are not selling the product which God gave you in abundance, which is wanted by the market, and you are absent from that market, and South Africa is selling, India is selling, Turkey is selling, you can understand why you are poor. Who made that decision? The false philosophy of the G40 indigenization and this all that nonsense which they were talking about is the AAG, self-defeating. We are visionaries. We don't do that. We don't shoot ourselves. We don't cut our nose to spite our face. So we are pro-business. We are pro-investment. We will be working with all the investors across the spectrum, east or west. And this is a job which I knew. I was fired by Mugabe as a first time in 1994 when I was ZBC Director General. You may remember. I was fired by Mugabe. I bootstrapped myself because of the .com digital era. I am the one who first brought the cell phone in this country, not Econet. I'm the one who put the switch for Net 1 in this country. I'm the one who put the switch for the internet with Cisco from America. I'm the one who put the digital link between South Africa and Harare through Byte Bridge. This is my work. Furthermore, I came back to the party voluntarily because my wife insisted when the MDC was formed. Mugabe later drafted me to go to China as an ambassador. I worked very hard with our South African colleagues. When I arrived to China and Beijing in 2002, the trade with Africa was 10 billion. When I left in 2007, it was 80 billion. You understand? Because I had worked very hard with the Chinese, including introducing the largest tobacco company to come and do the tobacco leaf sector in Zimbabwe. The only successful business project ever done by this government since independence on that scale. No other business project. And for evidence, go to Southampton, you see the building of the TIMP, which shows business acumen. That was me as ambassador to China. I know the world of business. I was in Beijing, which is the new emerging market. I was in New York, that's where I did my schooling. Telecommunications and management, that's the money center of the world. And I was in Brussels, the trade center of the world. And when I sat in Masvingo with my war veteran colleagues, we made decisions that Chrome B reopened. We are the ones behind the Special Economic Zone project of Zimbabwe. I had to force that through Parliament. I'm telling you that we are visionaries as war veterans, and we are here to restore vision again to this country. I'm giving you case studies of what we have done. We are the future. We were the past, we are the present, and we are the future. And Mugabe better take note. I want to thank you very much. Somebody says I must have a Shona version for the population. And then my brother, you're going to do the Ndebele version, a quick one. But I want to give foreigners who are here a few chances to give.
What does it mean to be Zimbabwean?
I don't want to hold them down.
To be Zimbabwean is to carry the mark of leadership. And leadership begins when you embrace your purpose and take responsibility. These times we're living in are evidence that each one of us was born in this generation for a great purpose. A purpose to shape Zimbabwe's future, a responsibility to carry the promise and live in the Zimbabwe we want. Zimbabwe is waiting for a generation of people who understand the meaning of standing up. You are the stepping stone, the one with the flame of inspiration, the one with the passion, the one who has what it takes to move Zimbabwe forward. It's time to stand up and do what is right. It's time to rise and do your part. It's beyond a privilege. It's an inheritance, a pledge that everyone has to make. So rise, Zimbabwe. Simuka, Zimbabwe. Pakama, Zimbabwe. It's time to pledge, register, and go vote.
Hello, good people. This is McDonald Magdish Dawenzi, and I'm excited to announce to you that if you're in the UK, I'm going to be there with you for the festive season, mainly for Eliana Makombe's album launch. The album is entitled The Lord's Hand. I'm excited because I'm a big part of this project, and it's going to be wonderful to be launching this project in Bedford. If you're anywhere near Bedford, please make a date with us on the 15th of December at number 254 Amt Hill Road in Bedford. Tickets are just going for £15 for adults, £25 VIP, and £5, just £5 for kids that are between 5 and 10. So we're going to be having big artists. I'm talking Kululi Bebe, all the way from Joya Celebration, and we're going to be having Matilda Tegeshi, and we're going to be backed by Friends in Christ. So if you are anywhere near Bedford, anywhere in the UK, please drive through to Bedford and let's have a wonderful time. I'm going to be there, Kululi is going to be there, Matilda is going to be there, Eliana herself is going to be there. Where will you be? I'll see you there.
Because of the sordid record of Mugabe in economic management and the plunder of the G40 and the madness, sheer madness of his wife who are trying to become a president of the republic and create a dynasty. The Zimbabwean people are up to here. They better take note. We don't want to be responsible for what the anger of the crowd can do. But what we are saying is we listen to their message and we want to channel it in a peaceful and organized manner, no violence. So watch the space tomorrow if the man continues with the folly of trying to stick on with power as if things are normal. They are not. The folly is his. We are revolutionaries. We are not the Zimbabwe peoples. We are not the Zimbabwe Defense Forces. They are professionals. We are revolutionaries. It's a very big distinction. Revolutionaries are back in play. That's all we have a record. I told you we removed the government before, and we used to remove leaders during the war. So revolutionaries are back in play. Camarada President Mugabe. Thank you. The next question is, so I answered the tomorrow one, I think, by the same token. Then the issue of who becomes the leader. The issue of who becomes the leader. We obviously are consulting. We are revolutionaries. We always consult on leaders. But in our fight during the war, we never bothered about leaders. We bothered about the direction where we are going. Because a leader, you can install him and the next thing is he's shot or bombed or anything. So the next one becomes a leader. So we are not preoccupied with leadership. That is the job of political parties, because I told you we are not a political party. So we are not preoccupied with leaders. But going about the tenor, because we used to have a shared membership with ZANU-PF as a party, there was a trend which was already emerging in the party about who should be the leader. And the G40 then decided to upend that process. They started undemocratic expulsions in the party. We were victims of that. Mugabe, I'm told, he brought lawyers yesterday to the SADC meeting, and I want to salute Anam Konori, Father Konori, and everybody who is trying to intervene and be peacemaker. We salute them. They are good, honest Zimbabweans. I'm told Mugabe brought lawyers yesterday. When I was fired from ZANU-PF, I wasn't even allowed. Actually, one of the crimes was that I tried to bring a lawyer to defend myself. The G40 and this disciplinary committee behaved in the most abominable of ways in dealing with internal party procedures. Now Mugabe wants to have a standard for himself. You can't have two scales of justice, Mr. President Mugabe of ZANU-PF. There's one scale. So what I am saying is that the fight which was going on in ZANU-PF reflected a resistance against another leader, which is Mnangagwa. God forbid, he could be dead by now. From two threats, one poisoning, among many other things, he knows better, but he also had to escape, a president had to escape. A loyal cadre, a founder of the army, Zanla, and Zipra, he knows, he's one of the oldest to go to war. He started the war, when did you go, Comrade?
1964.
1964, he knows Mnangagwa from as far back as 64. We only go back a decade later. Mnangagwa has been around that long. Mugabe, I told you, has no history of it all, which we can talk about of a military aspect, except flowery speeches in the last 3 years of the war. Nothing else. That man, yes. Now he's persecuting those of our cadres. And you know, one of the major grievances of the generals was the persecution of those who fought the war. Because Mugabe had been sold on to the idea that Anakasukwere and Anachipanga, they are the ones who are majority. He takes demographics for support. We don't take demographics for support. We organize people. Remember, rural people, Ishkwane Mash, before we organized them to fight against the Rhodesians. We gave the Zimbabwean population a sense of organization. We don't deal with demographics and figures. We deal with organization. And you'll see it tomorrow. So I don't want to be too specific about many things because I don't want to preempt the crowd which is coming tomorrow. But the fireworks are coming tomorrow. Thank you. UK bilateral relations, look, the UK obviously had a partiality towards the Rhodesians. They were British offspring, and they tried as much as possible to maintain their white racist supremacy here. We defeated them, and a lot of umbrage went into that since 1980. And they never, we are the only liberation army which has never been, post-war, which has never benefited from all the experience of other countries in post-war reconstruction, in post-war psychological, remedies associated with the people who have gone post-war traumatic distress. The Western countries did not want to do anything. Later, South Africa, Namibia benefited, but we didn't. So clearly, there was a lot of umbrage in the Western countries, and the UK is responsible for that because they've been more generous. But look, times change. The world has changed, the geopolitics has changed. Maybe the dominant role which Britain used to have in the 1980s is no longer there because the Chinas and the Indias are there and everybody else were much bigger. So this is a time to say, let's be friends again. After all, they have a long history in Southern Africa. We speak their language, their systems are here, and we all take pride in speaking good English. I do. So, look, for the UK, we stretch out our hands. We are very happy with the statement which they issued concerning what the generals did. It's a very good gesture, and we want to build upon that statement to a new chapter. Hopefully this time, I can go and die as a war veteran and say we reconciled ourselves with our former colonial power. America, after the war, extended its hand to Japan. to Germany, and today they are very good friends. There's absolutely no reason why 37 years after that war, we still keep grievances. Look, it's silly, it's petulant to continue to keep grievances from that part. After all, on our side, why keep grievances? We won anyway. The man who won can be gracious. The woman who won can be gracious.
I think it's questions. I think let's have.
But there is something very emotional which I want to give me permission, because I'm seeing some more veterans comrades here. I was in the Politburo of ZANU-PF, and I want to repeat it. There was a tiff between Disgrace, and Opa Mchinguri. There was a tiff. And Opa Mchinguri took Grace to the cleaners. She's a war veteran. She's good. She was very high in our military structure during the war. And she should have done better than all these goons and idiots whom Mugabe has been putting into power. But she hasn't. After delivering it back to Grace, Mugabe was numb. Grace appealed to Vice President Mnangagwa for protection, because she's empty. Like Jonathan calls her, she's cranium empty. That's what Jonathan calls her. She appealed to Comrade Mnangagwa for protection. Then she started crying, because she couldn't put up with what, I mean, she was flawed. What did she say? She says, Mnangagwa, protect me from war veteran Opa. Like all war veterans, they hate me. The reason they hate me is that I want the men whom they were looking for during the war. So they are jealous of me. I mean, this girl was nothing, look, saying that about these young girls when they were 12, went to war when they were 12, 14 and 16. They were not even mature when they went to war. They just loved their country. And they fought for their country, and many of them died fighting for their country. Now she has got the disdain of these young girls from that period. She has never done anything in her charity work, which she calls at Mazowe, ever to do anything about the many orphans from that period during the war, which the widows from the war and others did. She has absolutely no care about those. But the worst thing is for her to think that young girls who left Tegwani, who left Asha, who left Mtambara, who left Bonda and Christe Mambo to go to war, they're going for a reed dance for her husband. You know, this was the reed dance. That's what, I couldn't believe it. And now this woman wants to be president of this country. She needs, I mean, she's mad, I told you. And that's an expression of absolute insanity to ever aspire to being president. I have to say this. I took offense. I took offense, and I want to make it a public issue so that Zimbabwean people can judge fully this cranium-free woman who wants to aspire to be president. Thank you.
Question.
Look.
You spoke about this.
I think
No, let me answer it. The person who is in charge of the security of people in this country is the Minister of Home Affairs. Yeah, he is the one who probably is best placed to answer the question which you are doing, because he is also responsible for your safety to be even here. If Mnangagwa is in a foreign country, then the foreign ministers of those foreign countries are the ones who should be able to answer that question. Otherwise, maybe his family is privy to his whereabouts. So perhaps you may direct your question to those. But wherever he is, we are with him. In our structure as ZANU, there are two very senior people whom we pay reverence to. Mnangagwa, because we believe in a structure, is to us, and that's why as president, vice president of the party, we pay reverence to him and deference to him. We are very much with him, and the present crisis was triggered actually by the G40 treatment of Mnangagwa, and it offended those of our war veterans who are even in uniform. But also remember, this you must also take note. All of you know how the Zimbabwe National Army is recruited, I think you know. You must go and show the card of either your father who was in the Liberation War or a member of your family who was in the Liberation War. We put great stock on the pedigree of our fighters joining the army based on the loyalty and patriotism expressed during the great epic war which we fought Chimurenga. So I want to tell you that the action which the G40 did against Mnangagwa must have offended many of our young men in uniform, because they are also of liberation war pedigree, you understand? Vakarova shumba nembama and vachaona mubairo wavo nenyaya iyoyo. So I think I've answered the Mnangagwa thing. You know, we are absolutely with him, and we hope he can come back to Zimbabwe and be given a chance by the people of Zimbabwe, and if also hopefully by the ruling party. I'm hearing there is a lot of movement in the ruling party now that the usurpers of the G40 are in jail, for the elected members of the ruling party to assert themselves and take back their party. If they do that, bravo. And maybe we can reconsider as war veterans our relationship with them. But obviously, we are much more happier now as a pressure group because we belong to all Zimbabweans.
As we receive questions, allow the chairman to have this information that is trickling in. But you come up with a person from this other side, you got a chance, maybe him. Well.
No, we have a lady first. We have nothing to do with the special congress because it's a ZANU-PF thing. But from what I'm hearing from ZANU-PF provinces, he's just given me. Right now, Harare, Masvingo, Midlands, Manicaland have all resolved that Mugabe be expelled from the party. That's what we have been told. Hopefully, this is an internal party thing in ZANU-PF. Our march tomorrow is for all Zimbabweans. And I'm sure there are many Zimbabweans from other political parties who would be happy that he is not the leader of even ZANU-PF. Because we are reaching out to all the political parties. We've been busy as war veterans. When we saw the threat which was being posed to the body politic of the land and the economy of the land by the G40, we reached out to everybody, the white farmers, the business community, the diaspora, now even the churches. We have been busy because our fort as organizers is the United Front. We united everybody in a united front to defeat Smith. So we are building another united front to defeat the G40 and their wayward senior leader called Mugabe.
Yes, sir.
They thought that they're going to be traditional post that year. So my question is, would you support a Tsvangirai to the president, the voter?
We support whom the Zimbabweans love will choose. I said we brought the vote as war veterans, and we've been reaching out. We have reconciled our, there were gripes between us and Tsvangirai, and the gripes, I mean, to be very frank, they revolved around a very simple issue. Do you respect the state machinery which was brought by the Chimurenga too? And I want to tell you, as a matter of record, when he formed his party, I was one of the few war veterans who went to see him in 1999. And I asked him his position, he was with Eddie Cross, to say, do you respect the state apparatus which was born by the liberation struggle? He thought that he was very powerful, and he was very cocky at that time. And he says, no, we will take them to The Hague, they will be tried and all this. But after 2008, we have closed the ranks with him. He has no issues with our army, with the army, the generals. You saw the other time in Parliament, the general saluting Tsvangirai. So let's not dwell about past gripes, about past grievances. I'm talking today of hope. And when we had the COPAC consultation process, the MDC supported and put a clause in the constitution supporting the war veterans, recognizing their role. ZANU-PF is not recognized in the institution except as a generic. The MDC is not recognized. Grace is definitely Mugabe. The G4, she's not in the constitution, much as she goes on rallies propounding theories about judges which she has no knowledge of. We are in the constitution of Zimbabwe. So that was a very good gesture from the MDC and everybody else from Zimbabwe. So we respect the state. And look, the wisdom of our respect for the state, who is now rescuing us from the caprices and the excesses of grace and G40, the Zimbabwe Defense Forces. So I was vindicated, but to Tsvangirai, and he accepts. I hope that answers your question.
Any other question?
Hello? But that is for him to answer. We only extend the invitation. Why are you asking?
Would you say that ZANU-PF as an institution has been boldened or weakened with this exercise that the military took?
It's a renewal process. We have had some challenges like that in the past. You know, the development of country is not linear. You make false turns, you make mistakes. America had to go through a civil war, the American Revolution, but they survived, and America is a strong country today. So, you know, the main thing is, do you learn from what you have done, where you have done things wrong? Because that is the institutional memory. That's why we say as war veterans, we want all the aspects of the Zimbabwean body politic tested by the population through a vote, alternatively by the judiciary through impartial, dispassionate judgments done by erudite judges on issues which may be arising in the land. And the intrusive nature of the G40 in the workings of the judiciary, the attempt to mangle the state machinery of the country, these are grievous offenses. And now they are paying for them. And we hail the Zimbabwe Defense Forces for that intervention.
I just wanted to, do you think that this is a justified end to Mugabe's legacy? And as a man who was fired by Mugabe, does this give you special personal satisfaction that you find this document from?
You see, we are revolutionaries. We never, try to settle scores. It's not within us as revolutionaries. So we are not petulant. So I will not answer to that in petulant. I have nothing personal against him. For all he has done to me, the favors anyway go from me to him as far as I am concerned. And his issues with the Zimbabwe population, and tomorrow we want the Zimbabwe population to show where he is. So let the people choose, not me. And let the people show, not me.
On President Robert Mugabe officiating today at the graduation in Zimbabwe University. Yet the population of Zimbabwe yet already known that he was under the custody of the military. What does that mean? What does that tell the population?
He is defying the population, trying to give a semblance of normality when things are not normal. That's why we are saying, don't lie to yourself. It's a delusion. He has been deluding himself, and he's trying to show that he's in control. He let the country be derelict and let a midwife run him. And the midwife then chose her consorts of various types, including a maid professor, to become the arbiters of power in the executive of this land. I saw it. The man was sleeping 90% of the time in cabinet. And then he would say the decisions are coming in the afternoon from where? From his wife. That's why I fell out with that cabinet. I couldn't believe it. That's why it's not a coup. There was a vacuum which he had created, and a midwife and her coterie of consorts and other hangers on decided to exercise that power. And we watched then the army corrected the situation where state power was being usurped and abused. It's a correction. And we are very happy that the world and the regional neighbors have seen it that way, that it's a correction. The last question, maybe last two, last one.
I wanted to ask from your own understanding, has President Robert Mugabe ever lost an election and sought asylum to the office? Ever since?
Well, we've always, look, I want to make a distinction, and I tried to make, I go back to it earlier on. As long as there was a misalignment of understanding between us and the opposition on the state of on respect for the revolution and respect for the state apparatus, it was always difficult. And that's why sometimes there was an interventionist role for us. Because our obligation, we fought not for a particular generation. You don't sacrifice your life for a particular generation. You sacrifice your life for posterity. So when we feel the ethos and values and traditions which we sacrifice our life for were threatened, particularly by a disrespect of the state machinery, we felt that we had to go in. But I'm glad that we found each other today, and the role which the Zimbabwe Army has discharged today which is making even the MDC happy, which is making the international community happy, shows that we were always right by saying don't tamper with the Zimbabwe state. It is there for the good of the country. And they vindicated our stance as war veterans. So we're on the same page. So we don't dwell with the past, we look at the future. We want a good state, we want a good state apparatus, and the sooner we can deal with the political issues arising so that they go back to their barracks and be professional again, the better. And more important, we want to create a consensus around the future of the economy of this country where everybody participates. That's why I started on the 2 pillars of organization, historical organization. The former white colonial runners of this economy and the new diaspora, and of course ourselves. So we are looking at the future. I hope it answers all the questions before.
Somebody was no more questions. Okay, fine. So you can try to do it in Shona for the
Shona, you want questions in Shona? Just. Oh, okay. Okay. Can you prepare for the bell?
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody else who is leaving. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you. Yeah, but what does the press statement? But you can check. But
what does it mean to be Zimbabwean? To be Zimbabwean is to carry the mark of leadership. And leadership begins when you embrace your purpose and take responsibility. These times we're living in are evidence that each one of us was born in this generation for a great purpose. A purpose to shape Zimbabwe's future, a responsibility to carry the promise and live in the Zimbabwe we want. Zimbabwe is waiting for a generation of people who understand the meaning of standing up. You are the stepping stone, the one with the flame of inspiration, the one with the passion, the one who has what it takes to move Zimbabwe forward. It's time to stand up and do what is right. It's time to rise and do your part. It's beyond a privilege. It's an inheritance, a pledge that everyone has to make. So rise, Zimbabwe. Simuka, Zimbabwe. Pakama, Zimbabwe. It's time to play.
Hello good people, this is McDish and I'm excited to announce to you that if you're in the UK, I'm going to be there with you for the festive season. Mainly for Eliana Makombe's album launch. The album is entitled The Lord's Hand. I'm excited because I'm a big part of this project and it's going to be wonderful to be launching this project in Bedford. If you're anywhere near Bedford, please make a date with us on the 15th of December at number 254 Ant Hill Road in Bedford. Tickets are just going for £15 for adults, £25 VIP and £5 for kids that are between 5 and 10. So we're going to be having big artists. I'm talking Kululi Bebe all the way from Joya Celebration, and we're going to be having Matilda Television. We're going to be backed by Friends of Christ. So if you are anywhere near Bedford, anywhere in the UK, please drive through to Bedford. Let's have a wonderful time. I'm going to be there. Kululi is going to be there. Matilda's going to be there. Eliana herself is going to be there. Where will you be? I'll see you there.
This podcast has been powered by ZimdiTv,
division of Slime Media Production, specialist in social media streaming and in-house TV production.